Museum of the Egyptian Civilization, and while walking through a museum we'll often encounter a stunning display and are meant to show a certain artifact or piece of artwork in the most attractive way possible. Of course, the design and the ways of putting artifacts where inside the museum is what we are going to be speaking more about today here in the National Museum of the Egyptian Civilization and other museums as well, Rasha. And in this segment we are honored to be having with us Elham Salahuddin, the head of the museum sector at the Ministry of Antiquities. Mrs. Elham, thank you very much for being with us today on Live Focus.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Elham. First of all, I'd like to ask you, when is the museum expected to be opened, officially opened or inaugurated?
The National Museum of Civilization. Yeah, actually, first of all, we are going just to open temporary exhibition, and then gradually the museum taking care. But after we get the financial problems, yeah, because it needs a lot of money.
Yes. So what about the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization? What does it say about Egypt? We know, of course, the Grand Egyptian Museum, the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir, the Islamic Museum. So what differs from the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization and other museums that were opened years ago?
The National Museum of Civilization is going to talk about Egypt in general, about how Egypt was, how far Egypt was civilized through all years, since the archaic period till today. Okay, and it's going to be in thematic display, and this is the difference, because the Grand Egyptian Museum is going to talk about kingship and mainly can focus on Tutankhamun collection.
Now, for the artifacts which will be displayed here, I think they are from all over the different museums of Egypt, and even from some of them will be exhibited for the first time they were in the storage. Now, would you tell me the criteria of the selection, please?
Yeah, for sure, each museum, when they start to be structured or work on a structure, so we think about first of all about storytelling, about scenario. So this is why the criteria of choosing collection for the National Museum of Civilization should follow up the scenario. And as I told you, that will be thematic concerning the civilized country or civilized people in ancient Egypt and through other periods. So the collection could be moved from the Egyptian Museum or other museums for different periods, and also from the magazines all over Egypt from the north to south.
Yes, so what about the exhibits or the monuments that will be placed here, and setting them up and putting them in a certain design that we need to be conveying a certain message to the tourists who will be here watching the monument? So what is the collection, that the setting up the collection, how would it be done? Yes.
For sure it should be people for mounting, people for installation, interior designer, and a special group for setting the scenario. And it already there, the group of expertise and Egyptologists, and also for Islamic period and the modern times, and all of them sitting and have several meetings, or had several meetings, and still they are working on to choose a collection and put the different version of or different parts of the rooms, galleries of the National Museum of Civilization.
I understand that it will be having 6 main galleries, one about the writing, one about the state. Is that true? And what will be the divisions of it?
You mean
the division, the
topics?
Yes,
the topics,
please.
yeah. If we are talking, so we can talk about civilization through, as you said, through the writing, through the agriculture, through the costumes, through agriculture, fishing and hunting, okay, through tradition, relationship with men and women, or relationship with other communities or other countries, okay. So it will be covering everything, daily life, another world, and how far ancient Egyptian people and till modern ancient Egyptian people and modern Egyptian how far they're thinking, and how what the way of thinking, a way of relating, a way of tradition or tradition of life.
Mrs. Elham, do you think that the tourist or the visitor for the National Museum of the Egyptian Civilization can be interacting with the artifacts, or should be they very protected like the Tutankhamun collection in the Grand Egyptian Museum?
I guess foreigner in general, yeah, around the world, they love the strange and new things, especially folklore and tradition. For sure, Tutankhamun, people all the world love Tutankhamun, but it will be completely different. The story and the images and the collection will be different. For sure, they will come and see and focus on. Yeah, as you said, that we have different museums. Each museum has its own theme and own theme and own subject and own story. So if you have time, you will come. Okay. But mainly, I need the Egyptian come first, and then we are looking for tourists.
Now, for the display itself, would it only be the pieces in showcases, or would it be like some parts of the Nubian Museum that are like models?
Yeah. You are talking about panorama and diorama,
yes,
and collection. For sure, it makes it, because if we are talking about civilization, should be the graphic, models, panorama and diorama. For sure will be, yeah.
Yes, so what about the other museums outside of Cairo? We spoke a lot about the Grand Egyptian Museum, the NMEC, and the museums inside of Cairo. So if we can speak about the Malawi Museum, what is new about that, the renovation there, how's it going?
Yeah, for sure. You know that we, just a few days ago, we opened the Malawi Museum, and thanks God that the museum has some foreigner visitors, and also some Egyptian, not a lot, but thanks God that people start to visit the Malawi Museum. And Malawi Museum now is working on its strategy for making the workshop for Egyptian community engagement, and to revive or raise cultural awareness for the Malawi communities, especially the surrounding community, with reviving some of the art, the crafts, especially in Malawi.
Yes.
And also we have several other museums we're working on. Soon, I just got news that we are going to work with the governor of Matruha, and he submitted the finance or the cost of taking part in the library of Matruha to make a museum there. And we're working now in the story and the scenario of the Matruh Museum, and is going to talk about the relationship between Egypt and Libyan people. Especially, Egypt was conquered or was ruled before by Libyan 22nd dynasty. So we are going to talk about the western side of Egypt, and how far the ancient Egyptian king was thinking first when ascending the throne to assure that the western side is safe and no trouble come from the western side. And also we are talking about desert, the western desert, what kind of stones, what kind of animals, what's their job, what's their vegetables and foods and everything, relation and tradition of Libyan and Egyptian. So the Matruh Museum will be mixed with Egyptian and Libyan together in this scenario.
Actually, another interesting activity that's taking place is the idea of temporary exhibitions. And now, it used to be at the Egyptian Museum of Antiquities only, but now even the Grand Egyptian Museum is doing it. But before I talk about the Grand Egyptian Museum activities, I'd like to point out to Wadi Jadid, because it's all over the social media, the temporary exhibitions taking place there. Would you tell us more about it, please?
Yeah. We have now a strategy for all open museums, that we have 4 exhibitions per year, okay? So now it's a decision for all and order for all to take care for choosing 4 stories or 4 topics. And then Wadi Jadid now is active, because we now the all museum on competition, especially the directors and his group. So what he did nowadays is try to be the first to get the prize and to get the gift, because we said that with the local museum, provenance museum, who's going to take care more and be a strict way to be on time and choosing the wonderful topic, so we'll get a prize. And this is why the director of Wadi Jadid working on, and soon he's going to open exhibition, I guess in 20th of October, and the governor will open the exhibition himself. And the other museum, actually, they are working. Also, Swiss Museum is going to celebrate the National Day of Suez soon, also with the governor, and I guess our minister will visit too, is going to open the exhibition too in Suez. And the Egyptian Museum soon, in 24th of October, we have confiscated objects exhibitions, or the object had been stolen before and come back to Egypt, so it will be a wonderful big exhibition too. Yeah, in the Egyptian Museum.
Mrs. Elham, you said that every museum has to have a scenario, a theme. So how can we be successful in having a theme for Suez, for the New Valley or Al-Wadi Jadid, for Al-Fayoum, for the NMEC, for the Grand Egyptian Museum, and manage to attract the Egyptians in every governorate to be visiting them?
That's it. When I got my position, I thought about it, because I got a lot of training course concerning museology and museum studies, and also my master on museum studies. So I said I should convey to the right way the museums of Egypt. So as I told you, that each museum should have a special scenario, and a special scenario come from the content of the place and content of the governorate, the content of the provenance. So what's the history of the place? What's the context around the structure itself? And this we have to think about people, we think about the site itself, we think about the provenance, and then the story is coming. When we're talking about Matruh, it's the western side. We're talking about Matruh, we are talking about Mediterranean Sea. We are talking about Matruh, we're talking about Libya. We're talking about Matruh, we're talking about Western Desert. So we are talking about the place and context and surrounding site and community if it's a place. So it will be appeared the scenario, or you discover the scenario.
Another
the story.
Yeah, another interesting thing that you've started months ago is Object of the Month.
Yes.
Yeah, tell us about it, and tell us what's the most recent object to be exhibited.
It's actually, it's an old tradition. It was just for the Egyptian Museum, okay? And Dr. Khalid raised it again to be done for the old museums. So first of all, we made it for the Egyptian Museum and put the website of the of the ministry, and then the other museum come jealous. Why? Okay, I said okay, so we make it all museum and choose, and they put it on in media, on Facebook, and all the people share, and this is community engagement, and I'm really happy because the Egyptian people start to think about their civilization, to think and share museums, and this is really one of the messages of the museum, or the role of museum towards community.
Yes, in terms of interacting with the outer world, all the tourists who come here and the foreigners. Of course, we know that an exhibition will be held in China in the upcoming months.
Soon.
So what about the artifacts that will be displayed there, and what is the main benefit of going out there to China and other countries to be having more tourists here in Egypt in the future?
Yeah, actually, no, just this exhibition, we have other two exhibitions now, one in England, the underwater exhibition, and we have one in Japan, the builder of the pyramids. And I have a story with the China group, the organizer of China exhibition. They came and said, would you please choose for a topic, because we don't have to. I told them all the time, people come, the foreigner people come and ask, or organizer come and ask about queen and kings. Let us to think about normal people. And let's our exhibition to be about normal. She loved, and even the Minister of Culture of China, she loved, and she said that they are going to communicate between our collection and China collection. And we talk about normal people, general or public in Egypt and ancient Egypt, and public in ancient China. And we show the China community how far
the
they are
similarities and
different
differences.
or similar in somehow. And this is why we choose about 70 objects talking about public daily life for public people. We put just 3 or 4 objects about king and queens, and they call this exhibition Love in Ancient Egypt, and especially family, because they know well that the family is really important thing for the ancient Egyptian and for Egyptian in general. And this is one of the exhibitions. We have other exhibitions, inshallah, soon will be coming year and year after for Czech and also for Poland and also for Spanish and who knows, to Canada and USA.
Now, also you're doing special program for children.
Yes.
And even you did recently an activity called the White Cane, and it's for children with special needs, especially those who have either visually impaired or they cannot see.
Yeah.
Tell us more about these community activities.
Yeah. We have, as I told you before, that we have museum education department in each museum, okay? Open or closed or under renovation, under construction museums. And this is group that sometimes they have some members for disabled people, okay, or for specialists. And this is a group of the Egyptian museum people. They think about to celebrate this day, International Day for blind people, and why they call it White Stick, okay? And the exhibition come by point of view, one of my technical office with Sam, and she thought to let us to feel the blind people. And she bought some of models inside the showcases, and they make it, they covered with a black or yellow, dark yellow a piece of cloth, and to let the normal people to go and try to discover the details of the objects, to feel how far it's difficult, what's the feeling of disabled or blind people when they try to recognize and to get knowledge. And it was really successful, and people like it, ables and disabled, by the way.
Well,
Mrs. Elham Salahuddin, we wish you more success in attracting the foreigners and the Egyptians to the museums here in Egypt. The head of the museum sector, Ministry of Antiquities, Mrs. Elham Salahuddin, thank you very much for being with us today on Nile Cruise.
Thank you for Nile TV.
And we will be going out for a quick break, and stay tuned for more.